Welcome to week 4 of Bad Movie Month. This was far and away the worst week of the challenge, so let's just get right into it. I started this week with the final installment of Sandler Sundays, and I watched Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill is quite an interesting film because on one hand, it has the most annoying and grating performance that Adam Sandler has ever given as Jill. Every single line that he speaks as Jill is just like a cheese grater on your ears.
I'm like Jimmy Stewart at the end of that movie, the one with they live in Pottersville. What is that movie called?
His mannerisms as Jill are so annoying and just painful to watch. For as painful as Jill is to watch, Jack is just as bad because he's just pissed off and annoyed and bored for the whole film. Jack and Jill tries to do a lot of funny things and it fails at nearly all of them. This is genuinely an unwatchable film that would easily rake in a 0.5 out of 5.
I spent the day at Felipe's picnic where I finally felt welcome.
If it weren't for Al Pacino. See, Al Pacino is in this film and his character is in love with Jill. Just the fact that he is so obsessed and very attracted to Jill is inherently funny. Because Jill is the most repulsive person ever, and the fact that Academy Award-winning actor Al Pacino is obsessed with her, that idea is inherently kind of funny, and also the movie ends with Dunkachino.
Al Pacino!
It's not Al anymore. It's Dunk.
Dunkachino?
Don't mind if I do.
I mean, how can you hate the Dunk?
Say hello to my chocolate blend.
It's the Dunkachino.
What's my name?
Dunkachino!
Dunkachino!
Dunkachino is amazing. That entire 45-second sequence is so funny. Love it so much. Everything else about this movie is utterly painful and terrible and not worth watching in the slightest. Just look up on YouTube and you will have a great time. I'm feeling a pretty light 1 out of 5 on this one. Stay as far away from it as you possibly can.
Dunkachino!
Now, when I started up the random number generator for the next day, I was expecting just another pretty generic, boring, bland movie, because that's what most of the random number generator movies have been for this challenge. But somehow, by the grace of God, it landed on a good movie. And I don't mean good for this challenge, I mean just a good, straight up, honest to God, good film. And that is Billy Madison, one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies of all time. This movie somehow has a 16 on Metacritic. I have no idea how, because this movie is so funny. I've been watching this movie ever since I was a little kid, and so when the random number generator landed on it, I was so shocked, but I was so ecstatic because I had just gone through the bottom of the barrel Adam Sandler, and now I get to experience a genuinely good Adam Sandler comedy. This movie made me remember why I like Adam Sandler. He is so funny in the whole thing.
It's too damn hot for a penguin to be just walking around here.
There are so many insanely memorable gags that hold up so well to this day, like Chris Farley stealing all the kids' lunches, Adam Sandler playing with his shampoo and conditioner in the bathtub, the incredible F-bomb when he's talking about the kid's book about the missing dog.
If your dog is lost, you don't look for an hour and then call it quits. You get your ass out there and you find that dog.
There's just so many bits in this movie that are just so quotable and so funny that watching it was just genuinely a great experience. If you're looking at it on a plot level, it's about as basic as you get, but it's not bad. It's just Adam Sandler plays a mentally challenged man who has to go back to school and pass through all 12 grades in 2 weeks for each grade. That's the plot. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. There doesn't need to be any more nuance or character development than Adam Sandler is funny, he's playing a mentally challenged person, and he does funny things. That is all this movie is, and that is all it needs to be. I was hoping, begging, praying for the random number generator gods to bless me with this film, and they delivered. I love Billy Madison. I think it is a very fun film, even if the story and plot are very stupid. It's still a really good time, so I was feeling a pretty strong 3.5 out of 5 on it. And now for a dramatic retelling of my thought process the next morning. Man, this challenge might actually be doable because I just watched a good film. I haven't watched a good film at home in so long. I feel like I can take on anything. Oh. House of the Dead is the movie that finally broke me. I don't know if it's the fact that I just came off of such an amazing high with Billy Madison and I had to watch this the next day, but House of the Dead is the film that broke me. This has by far the worst editing in any movie I have ever seen in my entire life. There is an action scene about 2/3 of the way through the film that is so atrociously edited and it is so headache-inducing that I had to pause the film and just think about my life choices that had led me to that moment. And then there is a 5 to 6 second glory shot of a character with the camera rotating around them like it's a Disney Channel original movie. This happens during this scene so often that it was actually making me feel physically ill. I have never had to pause a film to prevent myself from going crazy before, but this movie did that. And it's not just that one scene that is that poorly edited. The whole movie just has schizophrenic, jagged editing that is not coherent, that doesn't make any sense. I guess it does technically have a bare bones plot, so it's a little bit better than Alone in the Dark, but this movie arguably caused me more mental pain than Alone in the Dark did. And it just has a bunch of little things that all add up to create a very frustrating experience. In the first 20 minutes of the movie, there is so much unnecessary nudity, and normally that kind of stuff doesn't bother me too much, but there was so much of it here, where it was just clear Uwe Boll was just feeling a little frisky that day. There are costumes for the zombies in this movie, but they all look awful. There is gore, but it is so bland. There are action scenes, as I mentioned, but they are so schizophrenically edited, they just cause your head to hurt. And when the movie does try to have lore, it is just nonsense. It is actual nonsense. This movie doesn't make any sense whatsoever in any context at all. After I had finished watching this film, I felt like I just got shot in the face. That is how dead I felt. And you can see it in my Terrible Tuesday video too. House of the Dead is the featheriest 0.5 out of 5 I could potentially conjure up. It's not a 0 because at least it has a bare bones plot, but everything else in this film was just painful and it broke me. I wish that I could say that the next day was better, and I guess by comparison it was, but I'm still in the trenches of bad movies. While the random number generator gods smiled upon me with Billy Madison, I was cursed with The Gallows. The Gallows is one of those many generic found footage horror movies they made in the 2010s, and The Gallows might just be the worst one I've ever seen. Since recording this, I have watched every single Paranormal Activity movie, and everything after the second one, especially 4, is worse. All the characters in this movie are so unlikable and so atrocious that watching the film was just a painful experience because you didn't want to see any of them succeed, and the whole time all the characters were just annoying me. I could forgive the annoying characters if the film was at least a little bit scary, but all the scares are so bland and predictable and become pretty goofy by the end of the movie. So the movie fails to be compelling because all the characters are insufferable, especially the man who's holding the camera is just the biggest asshole ever. It fails as a horror movie because it's not scary and it is extremely boring with all the scares just being bland Temu Paranormal Activity shenanigans. So there's really nothing to this film. This is just an extraordinarily bland and boring found footage horror movie with no redeeming qualities except the opening minute was kind of interesting, but everything else sucked. At least it didn't shoot me in the face and kill my family like House of the Dead did. In that case, I'm feeling a pretty light 1 out of 5 on this one. Now, the next day, I watched 2 bad movies. One of them was in the theater, but it doesn't qualify for this challenge, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because this movie pissed me off. I watched Scream 7. Now, Scream is my all-time favorite horror franchise, right? And oh my gosh, this movie made me want to gouge my eyes out at a certain point. Not to say that the film is as bad as The Gallows or House of the Dead, but it pissed me off as much as those movies did because they butchered my favorite horror franchise. What sucks about this movie is it's a generic slasher. The very thing that it was making fun of in the beginning, it has now become. This movie is just a generic slasher with the worst characters imaginable making the worst decisions. Now, it does have some good kills, especially one involving a character being suspended in midair, but the rest of this film is just utterly painful. Don't even get me started about the Ghostface reveals, because the Ghostface reveals were so offensively bad, I genuinely considered bumping my score down even further. It is actual nonsense, the Ghostface killer motivation. It's either nonsense or they just don't have a motivation, or both. I'm convinced that this movie had no plan, had no script. They probably shot this movie without a script and they were just making it up as they go, except that can't be the case because there are 4 writers listed on IMDb. It took 4 people to write this mess of a movie. Wait, and one of them was Kevin Williamson, the man who wrote the original 4 Scream movies? I mean, I knew he came back to direct, but he wrote this piece of shit too? The characters are bad, the pacing is bad, the mystery is so infuriatingly a tease. I was feeling a pretty decent 2 out of 5 coming out of the theater, but I'm only feeling more sour about it, which is why I have since brought it down to a decent 1.5 out of 5. Oh yeah, the random number generator landed on Rambo Last Blood. I guess I also watched that movie. Yeah, Rambo Last Blood. 2 out of 5. Not as bad as Scream 7. Moving on. Okay, fine, I'll talk about it. Rambo Last Blood is essentially a really cool and well done 20-minute action scene that has a 60-minute build-up to it. And the 60-minute build-up is extremely boring. This movie, almost more so than any other film, felt like it wasted my time, not because it was outright awful, but because the first 60 minutes of this movie felt like nothing. Nothing is really happening for the first hour, where Rambo goes to Mexico to look for his niece, and then she's dead. And so he goes back home, and then he goes back. And then he goes back home. That's the first hour of the movie. And then the bad guys who killed his niece come invade his compound, and the last 20-minute action scene is really cool. It really does so much heavy lifting for the quality of the film, because it is really fun to watch Rambo kill all these people in really fun and creative ways. But it takes so long to get there that I cannot recommend the film at all. So, all things considered, I'm feeling a pretty decent 2 out of 5 on this one. One really great action scene really cannot save an hour of nothing. So that brings us to our final installment of Friend Fridays with the Garbage Pail Kids movie. The Garbage Pail Kids movie is one of the lowest rated films of all time on Metacritic, and I guess I can see why. It's a pretty boring and bland kids movie that doesn't add anything to the genre, doesn't really do anything new. But what makes it bad is the fact that the main characters are these disgusting gremlins who actually hurt your eyes to even look at. All but one of the Garbage Pail Kids are just really gross and disgusting. I know that's their whole thing, but it doesn't make for an entertaining film. And the characters in the movie are all really boring, especially the main kid just doesn't have any character at all. He's just kind of along for the ride. Almost none of the Garbage Pail Kids are funny whatsoever, but after about 10 minutes or so, I did kind of just get used to their grossness, and it stopped being disgusting and more just boring. That being said, one of the Garbage Pail Kids is Alligator, and Alligator is basically just a crackhead, and he was a lot of fun to watch. Me and my friend were just making fun of him the whole time. Sorry, making fun with him the whole time. He is a precious little angel. I would never make fun of him. Other than Alligator, this is a pretty bland movie. It's not as bad as everybody was saying it was, mostly because I just got used to the Garbage Pail Kids themselves, so I was feeling a pretty decent 1.5 out of 5 on this one. And that brings us to our final day of the challenge, where I watched 3 films. This was always going to be the worst day. There was no way around that. But I didn't think it would be this bad. I started the day with Mortal Kombat Annihilation bright and early because I had work that day and I wanted to get it all out of the way before work. And Mortal Kombat Annihilation, it's really not as bad as I was expecting. The whole movie kind of functions on a formula where the characters will walk into a room, have a conversation that is actual nonsense, and then they will have a really goofy, over-the-top cartoonish martial arts fight with some generic bad guys. And then they will go into another room, talk more nonsense, have more goofy martial arts. And the movie just rinse and repeats that for about 90 minutes. It's not the worst thing in the world. Some of the action scenes can be a little bit fun in a campy sort of way, but I got pretty tired of the formula after about 30 minutes out of the 90-minute movie. Although the setup for the plot is kind of funny because the movie opens up by saying, hey, so you know how Liu Kang won the Mortal Kombat tournament at the end of the last movie and protected Earth for his whole generation? Well, turns out he didn't. And the bad guy's gonna invade Earth anyway. Why? Because f*** you, that's why. So the basic plot was a bit funny, but it's nothing I can really recommend. I was feeling a pretty decent 1.5 out of 5 on this one. Definitely did not deserve the atrocious reputation it has. The same cannot be said about Dragon Ball Evolution. I do not know anything about Dragon Ball. I've never seen the anime, so of course I don't know anything about the plot. And after having watched the live-action American Dragon Ball film where Goku is white, I feel like I know less about Dragon Ball now. The best way to describe this movie from my understanding is I imagine it follows a ChatGPT summary of Dragon Ball Season 1 and then turns it into a Disney Channel original movie written by a 62-year-old man who has no idea how kids talk, but he thinks he does. Yeah, this is an actual nonsense movie. This is probably the most parody-coded, serious film I've ever seen because not a single thing works in the film. Everything is just going so far in the wrong direction that none of it makes sense. Watching the film, characters will just appear out of nowhere. You're just expected to know who they are because presumably you've seen the anime. But even then, I feel like you would just be offended by their portrayals here in the film because they're just generic teenagers here. The races for the characters also don't make any sense because Goku's grandpa is still Japanese in the film, but Goku himself is the whitest man ever. It doesn't really make sense why they whitewashed some of the characters, but not others. Even Piccolo just looks like a generic buff alien in this movie and looks nothing like his anime counterpart. It's just a movie that is so desperately trying to Americanize a very beloved story, but fails on every front. I am offended on the Dragon Ball fans' behalf because no Dragon Ball fan should ever watch this film. It fails on every level and has absolutely no worth to it whatsoever. It was painful to watch. It was so boring I actually fell asleep halfway through and had to go back and re-watch it. It's a nothing movie. This is a nothing burger of a movie. So all in all, I'm feeling a 0.5 out of 5 here. But compared to the next film and the final film of the challenge, this might as well be Amadeus. Madam Web is the movie that has tormented me all these years. A little bit of backstory. As I've mentioned in previous videos, Madam Web was the first movie I ever watched masochistically 5 times in a row, like I did with Kraven the Hunter and a Minecraft movie. And to this day, Madam Web is still the worst film I have ever seen in the theater. There's something about Madam Web that still haunts me. Even after this most recent viewing, I still feel traumatized from watching Madam Web. I so desperately just want to say, oh, movie sucked, that's the end. But as you can see, there's a pretty substantial chunk left in the video. So it's time for the Madam Web rant. Madam Web is a movie that makes no sense whatsoever. The entire script and plot could have been so easily avoided if any character had a modicum of intelligence. The movie opens up with Cassie Webb's mother going in the Amazon looking for a spider to cure her daughter's disease while she's actively pregnant. Couldn't she have paid somebody to go to the Amazon for her? No. Instead, she's going to endanger her child's life. And also, she's going to hire a bodyguard who's super sketchy and ends up shooting her in the frickin' chest, killing her and almost killing her baby. Don't you think that she would have wanted to do any amount of a background check on the person she was paying to protect her while she's looking for this spider that is going to save her daughter's life? Or maybe she could have, I don't know, started looking for the spider people, because there are spider people in the Amazon that swoop in as soon as she gets shot. Why didn't the spider people swoop in sooner and just give her the spider? Unclear. And that's just the beginning. That's just the opening 5 minutes of the movie. So I only noticed this while editing the video, but there are so many freaking crash zooms in this movie. Like, oh my gosh. It's like the editor just discovered what they were, so she wanted to implement as many as possible so that she would look cool. Why are there so many crash zooms? I don't get it. As you go on, you meet Cassie, and Cassie is just the most insufferable superhero movie protagonist I have ever seen. She is annoying. She is a bitch to everybody. And Adam Scott plays Ben Parker, and thank that he comes out of this movie unscathed, because I love Adam Scott and he does the best that he can here. So Cassie is an EMT, right? And how she activates her powers is she goes into a car that is flipped over and tries to free somebody by cutting off their seatbelt. The car is like leaning off the edge, so she enters in the back door, cuts him free, but instead of crawling back out the back door, backing out, she crawls into the front seat, and of course when a fully grown woman is crawling into the front seat of a car that is tipping over the bridge, guess what happens? The car tips over and she falls. Why didn't she back out? Who knows? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. None of this movie makes sense. So essentially, the next piece that happens is she activates her powers, and not once, not twice, not three, not four, but 5 times the movie bats the audience over the head with what her powers are. She can see the future. It's like a Final Destination premonition, but way more boring than that. And it happens 5 times because apparently the audience couldn't pick up on it the first 4. Even after the 4th time that it happens, she still thinks that she's crazy and she doesn't realize what's happening. When she figures out her powers, she goes onto a subway for some reason, don't know why, and she sees these 3 girls who are being targeted by Ezekiel Sin, the villain, and so she's gonna protect them now, right? She's gonna be their guardian, except for that she is complaining about having to protect them for the whole movie, and she just says so many times, oh, you guys can figure it out, oh, I'm gonna leave you alone now, I'm gonna abandon you, I don't want anything to do with you, go to your parents, go home, go figure it out. But she continues to stay with them, but she continues complaining about them for the whole runtime. Also, the movie just has all these crazy and cringe lines like,
who are you? What is going on?
You know, be like a Girl Scout girl. Be that. Just be that.
Real people did not write this movie. This movie was written by an AI person who doesn't know anything about how humans actually talk. And the movie is just filled with these inconsistencies that don't make any sense. Like, they escape Ezekiel, so they're hiding in the forest. And she tells the girls,
don't do dumb things.
So the girls, they don't even stay put in the forest. They go to a diner where they immediately get caught, and Ezekiel finds them, and so Cassie has to save them again, in which she complains about having to save them again, and so she tries to abandon them, but turns out her abandoning them was actually just a dream, and so she goes back into the real world, and so Cassie realizes that she needs to go to the Amazon in order to find the actual answers on what is happening with her, and so she sends the girls to stay with Ben, and Ezekiel has the ability to track anybody down using essentially God's eye from Fast and Furious 7. If you've seen that movie, you know what it is, and he says that he can't find the girls anywhere for a week, and he has checked the apartments of family and friends, but he knows who Cassie is, and he says that he checked the location of family and friends' houses, but he didn't check Ben Parker's house. Why? I don't know. Anyways, Ben Parker's sister is Mary Parker, you know, Peter Parker's mom, and she's pregnant with Peter Parker, and she is gonna give birth pretty soon, so Ben has to take Mary to the hospital. Instead of leaving the girls in the house, which is very clearly where they are the safest, where they haven't been found yet, somehow, he decides to take them all in the car, and when they're in the car, going to the hospital, guess what happens? Ezekiel, the bad guy, finds them, and he tries to kill them. And Cassie has to come back from the Amazon, which I'm not even going to talk about her in the Amazon, because it is the most... No, I am going to talk about it, actually. So she goes into the Amazon, and this... I am so sorry. Madam Web has broken me. I wish I had never seen this film. I wish that I had never seen it 5 times in a row. This is a movie that is specifically designed to make me mad. Clearly it worked, because this movie made me more upset than I have ever been about any movie ever. I'm not gonna give Madam Web the time of day anymore. It's 0.5 out of 5. I'm gonna move on. It's time for my favorite part of the video that only I care about, the data. The average score per film this week came out to a 1.35 out of 5, tying our week 2 score. But technically Scream 7 was not part of the challenge, therefore bringing the rating down to a 1.27 out of 5, barely making it the worst week of the month average rating wise. So yeah, that was bad movie month. There's a lot of conclusions to be drawn on about why I did this, about what its effect on me was, but I guess the only conclusion I really want to draw is I had fun. Yeah, I was watching pretty awful movies for the whole month, but something was so exciting about using the random number generator to select a random bad movie I was going to watch that day. I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know if I was going to accidentally stumble upon the worst movie ever made or a hidden gem. I didn't know what I was going to watch, and there was just something so exciting and fresh about that. So I'm really glad that I did this challenge, even if it did drive me a little bit insane and make me want to die more than a few times. Heck, I might even do it again. Did you guys enjoy watching me go crazy? I'm genuinely curious. Is there anybody out there who has actually watched all 4 videos up until this point and will probably watch the 5th video? I really hope there's at least one person that I entertained with my insanity, with my masochism, because I had a good time doing this challenge, and I really hope that you guys had a good time watching it. I'm sorry that these videos have been taking so long to make, but truthfully, they're big videos. This is probably the biggest project I've ever undertaken. Way longer and more ambitious than the original Madam Web video, but I'm so happy that I'm actually seeing this one through. Alrighty, I guess I'll just see you guys next time, and hopefully I will be slightly less insane.